A very good morning and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with Breakfast News. Let's begin with a look at the top stories. Prime Minister Modi and President Obama renew Indo-US ties, promise to take them to the next level. US also says it will back India's bid for a permanent seat on a reformed UN Security Council. Prime Minister Modi promises to ease laws to facilitate businesses, invites US business leaders to invest in India. At least 7 people killed as 2 passenger trains collide near Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh. Rescue operations underway, casualty likely to go up. And protests in Hong Kong reach a flashpoint as thousands more descend onto the streets on China's National Day. UN chief urges upholding of democracy. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 5-day visit to the US ended on a high as both countries broad-based their strategic ties, pledging to take their strategic partnership to new levels. Both India and the US have agreed to collaborate on a host of bilateral and global issues, including a fight against global terror. A rare digital diplomacy was also seen between Prime Minister Modi and President Obama as they came out with a joint editorial in the Washington Post where they wrote about opening a new chapter in Indo-US ties.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Barack Obama pledged a renewed partnership between the world's oldest and the largest democracies during their summit-level talks on Tuesday. During the first ever bilateral meet, the two leaders held talks on substantive bilateral, regional and international issues covering economic cooperation, trade and investment, defense, security and a global terror threat.
We discussed issues of trade, issues of making sure that maritime rules are observed, and we discussed how we can continue to work together on a whole host of issues from space exploration and scientific endeavor to dealing with humanitarian crises like Ebola. And we also today spent time talking about the international situation and security issues. We addressed challenges in the Middle East and violent extremism and the fight against ISIL. We discussed what has now been a successful peaceful transition of power in Afghanistan and the need for all of us to work together to ensure that there's stability there.
In fact, post the 90-minute meeting, the camaraderie between the two leaders looked great as the joint statement session by the two was peppered with humor and symbolism. While the Indian Prime Minister said it was a happy coincidence that the Indo-US summit was taking place just after their summit at Mars, President Obama said he was impressed by Modi's interest in addressing the needs of the poor and his determination to make India a superpower.
भारत और अमेरिका के बीच मार्स पर समिट के बाद अब यह समिट धरती पर हो रहा है। यह शुभ संयोग हमारे संबंधों की क्षमता का प्रतिबिंब है।
But apart from the symbolism, the two leaders also discussed crucial issues like the civil nuclear deal, the trade facilitation agreement at the WTO, and a collaboration to combat terrorism. These are the issues that have been irritants between both countries in recent years.
दोनों सिविल न्यूक्लियर कोऑपरेशन को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं और इससे जुड़े मुद्दों को जल्दी सुलझाने के प्रति गंभीर है। यह भारत की एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। भारत ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन का समर्थन करता है, परंतु मेरी यह भी अपेक्षा है कि ऐसा समाधान निकले जो हमारी फूड सिक्योरिटी की चिंताओं को भी दूर करे। मेरा विश्वास है कि यह जल्दी से किया जा सकेगा।
Prime Minister Modi also sought Obama's support for ease of access for Indian services companies in the US market and invited American companies to participate in the Indian defense manufacturing sector. Both countries have decided to extend their defense cooperation agreement for 10 more years, and the US has also pledged to back India's entry into elite nuclear clubs and as a permanent member of the reformed UN Security Council. Earlier in the day, both Prime Minister Modi and President Obama jointly paid homage at the memorial of US civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., an unprecedented move by an Indian Prime Minister. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And to discuss the success of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's US visit and what are the takeaways, we have with us this morning Professor Christopher S. Raj, Center for Canadian, US and Latin American Studies at the JNU. A very good morning and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV,
Thank you,
Professor Raj.
It's a great joy to be with you again.
You see, there was a lot of bonhomie about Narendra Modi's US visit. Now, at the end of 5 days, what are the accomplishments that you see at the end of these 5 days?
Well, to begin with, UN speech was very balanced and good. And without even naming Pakistan, he conveyed the message that India is concerned about terrorism. 2-3 aspects of UN were carried out into the larger public domain in US. And I think a very well stage-managed NRI community was really successful. First time, I think, he was able to emotionally and build up his profile in the NRI committee. We cannot underestimate the NRI committee because they are all well-placed. Money, they enter into political process. They are in the political parties. They fight elections. So they are very significant.
Right.
So I think this element, which played a major role in Indo-US nuclear agreement in 2008, he has sensitized them what India is. And he also gave the dream, what you want to have India, we would like to build up with your cooperation. So
you just mentioned the civil nuclear agreement. You know, an interesting perspective that's coming out now is Prime Minister Modi has said both countries will resolve the issues. India at least will, make an effort to resolve the issue very soon. The problem now is the Parliament has passed the liability bill. What are the options before Prime Minister Modi in taking this issue forward?
See, both the statement and the vision statement, and before he went to White House, is very significant. On the day of 29th dinner, a vision statement was that had reference to this issue of Indo-US nuclear problem. And the second is the editorial which you mentioned, the Washington Post editorial, and the text of the joint statement. All refer to Indo-US nuclear cooperation and without touching the problem of indemnity, but the problem exists has been recognized. So
what are the problems that Narendra Modi will be facing back home?
The main problem is they had themselves opposed the indemnity. They have themselves opposed the Indo-US nuclear cooperation. Now, how to bring back the political setup here? Much more, I think, you need to... the American companies are no longer American companies. They are owned by Japanese. Yeah. The GE is Japanese. Westinghouse is Japanese. There has to be an agreement reached with Japan also, so that this nuclear issue can be resolved. America alone cannot solve the problem, but already I think the inroads, the roadmap has been set by Modi ji going to Japan and then now to United States.
Right, Professor Raj, do stay with us. We'll continue speaking to you. In the meanwhile, let's also take a look at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's business pitch. In the last leg of his 5-day visit to the United States, Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended a welcome reception at the US State Department before an official lunch. The Prime Minister also paid a courtesy call to leaders in the American Congress. The Prime Minister was at his humorous best at the US State Department, where he promoted Indo-US ties with symbolism and light humor. Joined by US Secretary of State John Kerry and Vice President Joe Biden, Modi made a statement to celebrate the growing ties between the world's richest democracy and the largest.
आप 120 वोल्ट की सिस्टम वाले हैं, मैं 220 वोल्ट वाला हूं। तो 120 और 220 के बीच में उस ऊर्जा का जो अंतर है उसका मेल करना, उसके लिए जो आवश्यक मजल काटनी होगी वो काटने में इस यात्रा में हम सफल हुए।
We both need and want clean air. We both need good jobs. We both need to trade new markets. We both need more investment. We both need higher education systems that work for the next generation. And we both need to keep our people safe from the scourge of violent extremism. Our new partnership is rooted in both shared values and shared interests.
The Prime Minister also paid a courtesy call to leaders in the American Congress. House Speaker John Boehner and Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi applauded the close ties between the two countries, with Modi echoing that sentiment.
His election and pledge to expand economic opportunity have inspired not only the Indian people, but frankly, people all over the world. India's growth will offer many opportunities to strengthen the ties between our two countries. And we look forward to that, and we certainly wish him well in his endeavor.
We look forward to working with him on issues that relate to global economic growth, global security, ending terrorism, and of course addressing the issue of climate change.
And making a strong pitch to attract investments into India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has assured top US business leaders of tax stability and a friendlier business environment in the country. Prime Minister Modi capped a day of high-profile meetings at the White House and on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. with an address at the US-India Business Council. Seen as an investor-friendly leader, Modi advocated ease of business and said the role of government in boosting the economy and encouraging private enterprise should be limited to that of a facilitator. He cited mutual benefits in urging American investors to look towards India as a profitable country to do business.
सरकारी व्यवस्था में जितने कम कानून हो उतनी फ्रेश एयर की अनुभूति होती है, और इसलिए मेरी कोशिश रहती है कि कानूनों की झाल से निकल करके एक सरल कानून हो, सरल व्यवस्था हो, व्यवस्थाओं को चलाएं। दूसरा मेरा मत है, गवर्नमेंट है नो बिजनेस टू बी देयर इन बिजनेस। ये सरकार का काम नहीं है व्यापार करना। लोग हैं सामर्थ्यवान हैं, उनको हमारा काम है फैसिलिटेटर का, एक अवसर पैदा करने का।
All right, Professor Raj, on the investment front, you know, Narendra Modi has a business-friendly image. Of course, he's sent that image out across. He's played it up to a very advantageous position as far as the NRIs are concerned. Do you think after meeting the business leaders, now he's been able to achieve what the aim with which he went to the United States, he has been able to achieve that?
Well, he has done a good public relation exercise. I would say in the last 2 years, the business community has been disenchanted, mainly on the Indo-US nuclear cooperation with the indemnity bill. It gave an impression that India is anti-business. Right. So in order to change the profile of this whole, anti-business and also the Indo-US indemnity bill, which has created a problem with the business community, he has gone all and out to just public relations as well as invite them, personally meet the leaders of industry, which has never happened in the past. So bringing confidence. And 2-3 things he had made it quite clear, that the government cannot be in the business. It is the private which has to promote business. That means he has made it quite clear. The framework in which he has already set the framework that the laws will made be easy.
And he's also sought Obama's support for ease of access for Indian service companies. Do you see that as a bold step?
Yeah, he certainly, without touching the immigration bill, which is right before the Congress, which also restricts the Indian Indian talent going to US.
So it's like a two-way process he's talking about, that we open doors for you and we expect the same.
It's also, I will also point out, the service sector in America is getting saturated. To the extent that how much more people go, outsourcing has been a main difficulty with the US economy. So That is why he opened the other option, come to India, make in India, you see. So while he has touched the aspect of service sector, but I personally feel we have reached a level of saturation with Indians going there. Right. It has to be vice versa. His main philosophical presentation is also like, come to India. He said Gandhi returned to India, although he was out, and 1915 he returned to India. It is bad to come and enjoy India in investment and promote India.
Right, right. So even though a lot of assurances and promises from both countries, it remains to be seen how it plays out in the coming days.
Actual operation of these promises.
Thank you, Professor Raj, for joining us this morning and giving us that perspective.
Thank you.
And we'll slip into a very short break here. Coming up next, India and China end the border standoff in Ladakh. Details after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Breakfast News. Now, in a tragic incident, at least 6 people were killed and 40 others injured when 2 speeding passenger trains collided near Gorakhpur late last night. The Krishak Express travelling from Varanasi to Gorakhpur hit the Barauni Express going from Lucknow to Barauni from behind. The accident happened about 7 kilometers from Gorakhpur at around 11 p.m. Railway officials say the casualty could go up. 3 coaches of the Barauni Express were thrown off the track following the collision, leaving several people injured. Rescue work is in full swing and the injured have been admitted to a hospital. Movement of trains on the Gorakhpur-Varanasi track has been disrupted following the accident.
Medical teams of the railways, the ambulances, the officers have already reached the site from Gorakhpur. The evacuation procedure, the medical relief procedures have already started at site, and other officers are also reaching at the site because they are at some distance. Helpline has been started for the benefit of passengers, and all necessary arrangements for medical relief have been taken by the railway.
India and China have successfully terminated the over 3-week-long standoff of its troops in Chumar and Demchok areas in eastern Ladakh. The 2 sides will hold a meeting on border affairs in Delhi this month. As per understanding reached between India and China, the 2 sides carried out disengagement and redeployment of border troops in the area on 26th and 27th September to restore status quo as on the 1st of September. The border commanders of the 2 sides met yesterday to confirm that the standoff between the border troops had been successfully terminated. The 2 armies were engaged in a standoff at Chumar region in Ladakh, coinciding with the visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping. And at least 67 people have died and over 42 lakh people across Assam have been affected in 3 waves of floods this year. The state government released an official statement on the situation yesterday. Assam has suffered huge losses in terms of lives, property, cropped land, dwelling units and infrastructure in 3 waves of flood this season. The last deluge wreaked havoc in Kamrup and Goalpara districts, claiming several lives and leaving behind a trail of destruction. The statement says that more than 42 lakh people across 23 districts have been affected, rendering tens of thousands homeless. Authorities are operating 800 relief camps, housing over 7,50,000 people. Protests in Hong Kong reached a flashpoint today as the country celebrates its National Day. Pro-democracy protesters have called for massive rallies across the country as the Hong Kong government refuses to budge. Meanwhile, the UN chief has urged Hong Kong to observe the principles of democracy.
October 1st, the Chinese National Day. But instead of celebrating, tens of thousands in Hong Kong took to the streets to challenge and defy Beijing. An activist warned that protests could become a second Tiananmen Square.
Has a final say in everything in Hong Kong, and Beijing has a record of crackdown on peaceful demonstration with violence. I think the worst thing that would happen is a second Tiananmen massacre.
Even as thousands stay out on the streets of Hong Kong demanding full democracy, top Chinese leaders attended ceremonies ahead of the National Day. Addressing Communist Party leaders, Xi Jinping said that his government would implement the guidelines of one country, two systems and the basic law to safeguard the long-term prosperity and stability of Hong Kong and Macau.
令中央收返人大常委會喺8月31號根據基本法嘅規定所作出嘅決定。
UN Chief Ban Ki-moon has also urged the upholding of democratic principles in Hong Kong. The international community has expressed concerns on escalating protests.
He understands that this is a domestic matter, but urges all stakeholders to resolve any differences in a manner that is peaceful and safeguards democratic principles.
Basic agreement that we set out with the Chinese all those years ago, that should be stuck to, and that did guarantee particular freedoms to people in Hong Kong, the freedom of speech, the freedom to demonstrate.
Authorities have already cancelled a firework display due to take place later tonight. Beijing ruled last month that Hong Kong could elect their next leader in 2017, but the choice of candidates would be restricted to 2 or 3 people who must be approved by a majority of pro-Beijing committee, which means that the Chinese government can effectively screen candidates. The protests are seen as a direct challenge to Beijing's grip on territory's politics. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Iraqi Kurdish troops gained control over Islamic State militants in a strategic border crossing with Syria on Tuesday. This comes after heavy fighting was reported across the border crossing between Iraq and Syria. It is a major milestone since the US-led forces won the support of a major Sunni tribe in fighting the Islamic State. Winning over Sunni tribes was a central part of the strategy that helped the US military defeat terrorists in 2006 and 2007. Washington hopes the new Iraqi government can repeat it. The cooperation was the result of an agreement with the president of Iraq's Kurdish region after 3 months of negotiation to join forces against a common enemy, in this case, the Islamic State. And let's now get you some more international news in our World Wrap. Medical officials in the US have confirmed the first case of the Ebola virus in the country. The Center for Disease Control said that a patient is being treated at a hospital in Dallas after testing positive for the deadly virus. The patient left Liberia on 19 September and arrived in the US on the 20th of September without displaying any symptoms. Search and recovery efforts for at least 24 victims of Japan's worst volcanic eruption continue to be delayed due to worries about rising volcanic activity. Japan's meteorological agency has warned that the mountain could erupt again in the next few days. Recovery efforts have been hampered by high levels of toxic gas and ash-coated slopes on the still smoking mountain. At least 36 people have died and more than 60 injured. The director of the U.S. Secret Service has said that its security plan was not properly executed when a man with a knife broke into the White House last month. Director Julia Pearson said that she takes full responsibility and would not let it happen again. There have been 6 fence jumpers this year alone. California has become the first U.S. state to ban single-use plastic bags after passing a statewide legislation. The bags will be outlawed in grocery and convenience stores to cut down on litter damaging the environment. However, plastic manufacturers have challenged the move, claiming it will lead to the loss of thousands of jobs. And let's now get you all the updates from the Asian Games. All the action lined up at the Asian Games today. 5-time world champion MC Maricom will look to create history at the Asian Games as she plays for the gold medal match in the women's flyweight category today. The 31-year-old has outclassed her Vietnamese opponent in the semi-final. Maricom had won a bronze in 2010, the first edition where women's boxing was introduced. Indian women's hockey team will look to finish the Asian Games campaign with a bronze medal as they play Japan in the 3rd-4th position playoff. The match will be a repeat of the Guangzhou Asiad where India lost to Japan 4 years ago. The Indian team was beaten by host Korea in the semi-final. Indian athletes will be in action in various events today. Tintu, Luka and Sushma Devi will be in action in the women's 800 meters final event. 2010 Games bronze medalist Tintu Luka qualified by finishing top in the heats. Sajish Joseph will feature in the men's 800 meters final. Well, it was a relatively quieter day for India at the Asian Games on Tuesday. India just managed to stay within the top 10 of the medal list as it added 4 medals to its total. Vikas Gowda provided the silver lining for India in discus throw event. In hockey, India beat host South Korea to set up a final clash with Pakistan.
Over 60 metres he did.
Ace discus thrower Vikas Gowda was India's top performer on Tuesday as India added 4 more medals to its tally. Vikas managed a throw of 62.58 metres to clinch the silver on an otherwise lackluster day for the athletes. In hockey, Akashdeep ended India's 12-year-old jinx at the Asiad by guiding Indian men's team into the finals. India will take on arch rivals Pakistan in the final on Thursday. Indian team defeated host South Korea by 1-0 in the semis.
An Indian stick fallen out of their hands.
5-time world champion boxer Mary Kom assured another medal by reaching the final of 51kg category. She scored a convincing 3-0 victory over her Vietnamese opponent. However, Sarita Devi and Pooja Rani had to settle for a bronze medal after losing their semi-final bouts. Despite dominating the ring, Sarita Devi was robbed of a gold medal chance. Devendra Singh was also eliminated in a similar fashion. He got the better of his Korean opponent in the 49kg category in all 3 rounds, but it was bizarre to see the decision go against him. The verdict of the judges prompted the Indian contingent to lodge a protest. However, the appeal was rejected. There was some unexpected good news in sailing as Varsha Gautam and Aishwarya Nedun-Shejian claimed a bronze medal in the women's 2% dinghy sailing event with net 25 points. India is now at the 10th position in the overall standings with 49 medals. China consolidated its top spot with a haul of 268. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's all we have for you in Breakfast News today. Thanks for watching and have a great day.